Welcome, everyone. This is Mike Myer, CEO and founder of Quiq. I'm here today with Bill O'Neill and Dave Schubmehl from IDC, and we're going to talk about some of the learnings and observations that came out of a recent roundtable that we did with CIOs from large brands. So to kick things off, I'm going to ask my guests to introduce themselves. Dave, do you want to go first?
Sure, happy to do that, Mike. So my name is Dave Schubmehl. I'm a research VP with AI and automation at IDC, and I've been with IDC since 2012 and researching AI since 2013. So happy to be on this with you, and looking forward to our discussion today.
Awesome. Thank you for joining. And alongside me is my co-founder, Bill. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Bill O'Neill, the co-founder of Quiq, also SVP of Product and Engineering. Been with Quiq, of course, from the beginning, Mike, and I've done this from the beginning. Prior to this, I worked at Right Now Technologies, and which later was acquired by Oracle. So I've been in this space for over 15 years, and with Quiq for 10, and definitely in the AI space for since the beginning. So anyway, great to be here, and glad to follow up for the roundtable. A lot of great discussion on that.
Thanks, Bill. And then I'll complete my introduction. Prior to starting this business, and Quiq has been in existence for about 9 years, I was CTO for a company called Right Now Technologies, and we built an agent experience that was purchased by Oracle. So I've spent a long time working in the contact center and customer service software space. And it's been several years of rapid transition in the past couple of years. So it's pretty exciting what we talked about in the CIO roundtable. So we actually talk about what happened in the CIO roundtable?
Sounds good. Good. So we had a great conversation with a number of technical leaders at enterprise brands about agentic AI, and I think it was a really terrific discussion. But before we do that, maybe Bill and Mike, you can talk a little bit about Quiq and what you folks are doing around agentic AI, first, and then we can kind of get into the rest of the discussion.
Perfect. Well, just to introduce Quiq, we are a platform to help customers and businesses engage, and those communications can happen inside of AI, so an automated conversation between an agentic AI agent and a consumer, or it could also happen because we realize that AI doesn't resolve every issue. It could also happen between a human agent and the consumer inside of a digital messaging channel like WhatsApp or Apple Messages for Business. And the Quiq system automates those interactions with AI, as well as has a complete AI-powered contact center system that allows agents to be assisted by AI as well. So that's what we do. In terms of the space that we're in, it's very interesting because I think we're going to talk about it in a second. The agentic term has gotten very confusing in the space all of a sudden.
I just want to pile on what Mike was saying. Agentic's been, I think, hijacked for sales and marketing, but we're losing track of the promise of that word. And if you look at agentic, the root of the word is agency. And so this is AI that's demonstrating true agency. Now, we're not talking about unsupervised self-learning. That's a whole dangerous category. But we are talking about keeping people in the loop, but also allowing this AI and all this great technology around this to be leveraged in really creative and new ways so that it can solve problems on its own within boundaries and within constraints. It can understand what goals need to be, the high-level goals that a consumer might want, and it can actually have agency to go figure out how to solve those goals with the human together. So agentic really is more than just like RAG, which is question answer stuff. It is really about talking to an AI that empathetically understands the consumer and goes and helps them get things done. So when consumers are interacting with their brand, they're not coming to ask questions alone. They're coming to get things done. And so agentic AI is kind of like a partner with your consumers to help them interact with your brand and get things done autonomously. So really passionate about this topic and really want to make sure we're all clear on what agentic AI really means.
And I think from our discussion, during the roundtable, it really did seem like there was a lot of misunderstanding or confusion about what agentic AI actually is and, how it works. Maybe, Mike, Bill, you guys can, provide us with, your definition and how you think of agentic AI and how it helps organizations.
I'm going to give there's, I think, some pretty technical definitions out there. I'm going to give like a layperson's definition. And I think the difference between generative and agentic AI is really around, Bill mentioned the term agency a few moments ago, but it's really around the ability to reason. And so the difference being, I think about generative as probably more so question answering, like go and look up an answer or tell me what my account balance is. And those things typically get done in self-service contexts. But a lot of inquiries to a contact center involve a human agent. And so a human agent has the ability to reason, plot a course, react to if something is different than what was expected, take some adjustments, and then complete a multi-step workflow. And when we talk about agentic AI, the simplest explanation is it's what your first line customer service agents would do. They're able to understand a whole bunch of different issues, respond to those issues, react to unexpected events in the process, and complete a multi-step workflow. Whereas, traditional generative AI, and Bill mentioned the term retrieval augmented generation or RAG, that's more of kind of like a single question and answer session. And so really the promise of what we're working on is much more around that tier one customer service agent use case instead of just like information retrieval.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And, you mentioned agency, Bill, and I think the other aspect is, I think organizations are looking for some level of autonomy as well. So the question, is, rather than just having something that, answers a question or, provides a single response, you actually want it to do something for you and try to solve some kind of problem. And I think, some of that, some of that is what resulted in, I would say a misunderstanding in the market about what agentic AI actually is and how it works. How are you folks seeing when you talk to enterprises? What are they looking for in a vendor? In terms of agentic AI solutions, how are you seeing that play out in your market?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it either comes from a lot of, in the beginning, when we first saw like OpenAI, a lot of excitement and a lot of unrealistic expectations of what this technology can do. That's one side of it. On the other side is complete paranoia that this thing's going to take over the world and ruin your business. So what we need to do is really understand the buyer mindset of both sides of this, and the reality is in the middle, right? And help them understand like the security aspects of it, the privacy aspects of AI, to keep the people who are really concerned about what AI is going to do to their brand, and rightfully so. And then also the ones on the other side who really think this thing's just going to replace all humans. And that's not right either. So it's definitely understanding the buyer, the mindset, where they're at in this journey, and helping them align. And of course, underneath all of this is we need to understand the business goals. And early adopters are fantastic. I love working with them, but sometimes technology can we get wrapped up in the technology and we lose sight of the business value. So whenever I work with customers, first thing I want to understand is like, what is the business value we're going to deliver here? And what's some realistic expectations? And then what's some kind of constraints around security and compliance in that? And then once we get that vision, we can start to roll out, typically incrementally, agentic AI in the enterprise.
And, if we talk about, maybe switching gears a little bit, we spent a lot of time during the roundtable talking about build versus buy. And I think a number of the folks that we spoke to are actually, doing their own proof of concepts. They're actually out there, attempting to work with the various frameworks that are out there and playing around with that. How do you see that buy versus build? I mean, one of the things that IDC research has been telling us is that there's a shortage of AI engineering talent. And, that really is causing a lot of issues for organizations because, they don't have the engineering talent in-house to actually develop these kinds of solutions. How do you see that playing out? Do you see, people buying off the shelf, agents, or is it going to be more of a, build type mentality, or maybe a combination of both, where people start with pre-built templates and then customize those things. How are you seeing that evolve in your area?
I think first I comment that, build versus buy, it's not a binary choice. There's a degrees in between where in some situations you need, because of your business requirements and the uniqueness of your business, may need to build that particular use case. But in a lot of situations, a business process such as customer experience is fundamentally very similar across many different businesses. The actual information that's provided is, of course, business specific, but the process of delivering customer experience is the same across a lot of businesses. And one of the things that came out in the roundtable was an observation that was like, strategically, we need to build AI when it differentiates our business. But for common use cases like CX, it may not make sense for us to build internally because we need to partner and leverage the investment that the world has made or a vendor has made in a particular solution. So that was one interesting thing. I think the other interesting thing as I think about build versus buy is the alternatives are oftentimes phrased again very much at the opposite ends of the spectrum. So on the one end of the spectrum, you have I'm going to pay a vendor to build this for me. That'll probably mean I'll get a black box and I'll be dependent upon the vendor to deliver that solution. I won't be able to see inside. I will be limited in how much I can control or maintain that myself going forward. And so, like everything I just raised there, control, being able to understand what's going on. Those are oftentimes the concerns about having someone build software for you. But then on the other side of the spectrum, the build function is oftentimes phrased as we're going to go start with a foundational model. We're going to get an open AI license. We're going to put together an open source chain of Lang chain, and we're going to hire a bunch of people, and we're going to kind of like recreate the technology from the bottom of the stack to the top of the stack. And from our perspective, we respect people's desire to build because the control and not being reliant on a vendor and being able to see what's inside the black box, those are all valid business reasons. And so for that reason, we've built a platform that we refer to as really a clear box. And so the tools that we would build AI for a company, and if they wish us to build for them, we're happy to. If they want to build themselves, we're happy to enable them to build themselves. We're going to give them a clear box where we'll be using the same tools that they would use to build. And so we have a spin on this whole situation that says actually you should buy to build. And so, in other words, you should buy a much more advanced platform than starting at the lowest levels. But then you can build, and in fact, we'll teach you how to build alongside of us. And so that's part of our secret sauce and our differentiation is that buy to build.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And the other aspect is, I think we noted a few of the participants talking about how they are using partners to actually help them provide expertise and things like that. Is that something you're seeing as well? That the organizations you're working with are leaning on vendors like yourself to provide that level of expertise and to help get started in the first place?
This world is this AI world is very new. And so as a result, there's not a lot of people who've done it before. Very few people have done it before. We have that advantage because we've worked with a bunch of different brands, and so we've done it a few times. But we don't have 5 years of experience. We have 18 months worth of experience building on top of generative AI. So I think that what you're seeing is it's almost like the analogy is like if I'm going to climb Mount Everest, I need a guide. Like building AI is complicated. It's risky. I wouldn't think about taking a complicated mountaineering expedition on my own. Why would I try to build AI on my own? And so, but after I've done a few expeditions, I'll understand how to climb and what the elements might entail, and I can overcome those things. And so, I think that at this point in time, the one of the things that the themes that we saw in the webinar is or the roundtable is that people don't have the resources internally. They don't necessarily have the expertise. They're not going to be able to hire the expertise, and so they're going to bring vendors in to help raise their level of knowledge because they want to be able to do it themselves over time. But initially, they need that Sherpa to help figure out how to do the first implementation.
Yeah, well said, Mike. And then I just want to pile on that as well. Like, we're all resource constrained, no matter what business you're in. So you have these innovation dollars. Where are you going to spend those dollars? Are you going to spend them building out frameworks, orchestration? I mean, there's a learning curve to this. By bringing in the right partner, that's going to shave that learning curve down. There's two concerns here. One is vendor lock-in. We can talk about that in a second because we're really against vendor lock-in. We make your assets that you bring that you can take them out of Quiq and go put them somewhere else. The point of this is like Quiq better deliver value for you. And then back to those assets, what they look like, they look like knowledge and APIs. So we need the knowledge so we can answer questions. And then we need APIs for the agency to go get things done. So when we work with companies, we really want, like Mike said, be the Sherpa, guide them and say, listen, you have this IT dollars. Go build better APIs, go build the foundations that are specific to your business so that we can build an exceptional agentic experience. So that's really how we try to guide customers. And then finally, is totally a gradient as well. We have some customers who almost pair program with us. They have their own AI engineers. They sit with us. We develop it together. And then other ones, like we hand out off completely. And they just, anytime they want something changed, we change it for them. And then, of course, there's everything in the middle as well.
I think the other interesting thing is nobody has figured this out. Like we had, the largest brands on the roundtable with us, and there were varying degrees of strategy. Some were more on the build, some were more on the buy. One of the important factors that somebody raised is it's not just the initial implementation, but the reality is these things are going to change very rapidly over time. And so the resources allocated to, if you're going to build internally, the resources allocated to build probably are going to be on the project for the time going into the future because new models are coming out, prior generations are being deprecated, reasoning is changing. Like this stuff is not like build it and then put it on the shelf and the project's going to be done. It's going to be pretty a pretty heavy ongoing maintenance concern as well. And so this whole build versus buy equation, it was really interesting. Some folks were worried about maintenance. Some people hadn't thought about it. Some people are leaning more towards build. Some people were leaning more towards buy. There's no clear-cut strategy at this point in time, and I don't think every brand will ever have the same strategy. But everybody's still plotting the course. It's an early stage in this journey.
Yeah, no, great points, great points. And I think a couple of the participants, at least a few of the participants, were in regulated industries like financial services and things like that. And I think we noted that there was some hesitancy on the parts of some of those organizations to, think about AI in general and agentic AI in particular. Have you seen any of that happening with your customers? And if so, how do you kind of get around that challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I think we certainly have, and we worked with clients in regulated industries. Spirit Airlines, for instance, is a client, and the DOT actually has a fair amount of regulation related to the information that's provided from an airline. We work with some insurance companies. So I think in general, the concerns raised are, how are you going to use my data? And can you provide information accurately? Does the AI work well? Does it not hallucinate? And we've worked through both of those issues, and we've routinely spend time with a brand during an initial vendor evaluation to explain that we're not going to actually use your data for any other purpose than to serve you. And we have techniques where we can use specialized AI to measure the performance of the main large language model and provide accurate information. So it's the technology involved here at making AI be more accurate is getting better and better. And at this point in time, we can provide solutions that are far more accurate and trustworthy than a human agent in most circumstances. So that's the measure that we should be comparing it to. Like brands are already accepting the fact that humans may fail and there might be some liability associated with something that a human agent says. If we do better than with the AI than the human agent, it decrease the overall risk. And that's really, I think, how people should think about the risk of AI.
Yeah, that's really well said, Mike. And then also, everyone knows about hallucinations. That's a really common thing, but also bias in large language models is overlooked sometimes. It's also a real concern. So we have tools that will help you monitor bias as well as look at hallucination detection. Basically, we look at the output of the large language model. We look at the evidence we gave it from your knowledge base, for example, and we have to get a confidence score that how accurate is that response from the large language model. High confidence, we can return it back. Low confidence, we keep it. But these are things that you're going to have to build out as well. And then also, like to the security and compliance things, comes down to some other things. We have some customers who are insistent that we use their own large language model. They might have fine-tuned it. They might be bringing it themselves. So any vendor you work with should be LLM agnostic. You can just swap out these large language models as needed. And then also, like Mike said, sometimes you just have to really understand the customer. Like when I work with Spirit Airlines, there are some topics that are really sensitive. You can imagine some topics you would say to an airline need to be escalated to a human agent, especially around security. And there's also some things that are under the Department of Transportation where we can't return a generative response. It has to be a canned response. So just when you get in that nuance, you really have to have a vendor who understands the compliances and that you're under. And so we can work together to navigate those complexities.
Great points. Great points. And, I think one of the outcomes of this roundtable and even this discussion, is that we saw lots of interest in agentic AI. I think we had lots of participants of the roundtable, and I think everybody wants to make use of this. And it's just really a question of, how do I find the right partner? How do I develop the right use case? How do I put that into process? And how do I measure return on investment once I do all of that? So I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of potential value. I think people are trying to figure out, how can I make that value work for my organization?
Yeah, and it's still early. Like if I looked at the web development, we can all remember writing HTML. A couple years down the road, JavaScript came out and unlocked the browser completely. Like I'm still waiting for those inflection points coming along in agentic AI that's really going to propel us, not just evolutionary, but revolutionary in this thing in a safe way. But we have yet to see those coming, and they will come. Hopefully, Quiq builds the very first one.
And I think
we're very early on this journey. I mean, I think we've all been around for a while. Like if you think back to we thought that the internet and PC personal computing was changing the world, but look how far it's come since 1990. And so we're very early. I'm looking forward to in the future looking back on today and be like, oh my gosh, you remember when we used to do this? The world's going to change a lot.
There is, and I know we're running short on time, but one thing I really want to drive home here is this agentic is the first time that brands, this responsibility with agentic, this is the key point. It has flipped on its head. Before, the consumers had to navigate your IVR, they had to download your mobile app, they had to go to your web page, they had to interact with your chat bot. It was always on the consumer to figure out how to talk to your brand. With agentic AI, truly now it is your brand's responsibility to interact with the consumer in the way the consumer understands. If we can finally deliver this promise, we have the tools to do it. Now we just got to go forward and do it. So that's a really important point. When people start talking about agentic, that's the one takeaway I think people should take.
Terrific. I think with that, it's a wrap.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.